And do you use ChatGPT when raising your baby?
I do. I mean, I feel kind of bad about it because we have this like genius level at everything intelligence sitting there like waiting to unravel the mysteries of humanity. And I'm like, why does my kid stop dropping his pizza on the floor and laughing? Like,
Yeah.
You know?
And
so I feel like I'm not asking a good enough question, but it is, I cannot imagine having gone through the, like figuring out how to raise a newborn without ChatGPT. Clearly people did it for a long time, no problem.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
so I know it's clearly was possible.
Yes, it was possible.
My kids hopefully will never be smarter than AI. They will never grow up in a world where products and services are not incredibly smart, incredibly capable. One of the things that is always unfair in this comparison is people talk about how much energy it takes to train an AI model relative to how much it costs a human to do one inference query. But it also takes a lot of energy to train a human. It takes like 20 years of life and all of the food you eat during that time before you get smart.
I sometimes get in this place where I'm going down a path. I'll be up at 4 or 5 in the morning. My day hasn't quite started, but I'm not sleeping anymore. And I'll be on Quora and see some cool quantum physics question or something else I'm looking into. And I'll go down this thread with GPT or Grok. And I'll start to get to the edge of what's known in quantum physics. And then I'm doing the equivalent of vibe coding, except it's vibe physics. And we're approaching what's known, and I'm trying to poke and see if there's breakthroughs to be had. And I've gotten pretty damn close to some interesting breakthroughs just doing that.
You said something that I love and I never hear other entrepreneurs talk about, but I think it's super important, that you don't have any levels of introspection.
Yes, zero, as little as possible.
Why?
Move forward, go. Yeah, I don't know. I found people who dwell in the past get stuck in the past. It's a real problem, and it's a problem at work and it's a problem at home.
So I've read obviously 400, I think now 10 biographies of history-based entrepreneurs,
Yep.
And that was one of the most surprising things. Like, what's the most surprising thing that you've learned from this? So like, oh, they have little or zero introspection.
Yep.
Like Sam Walton didn't wake up thinking about his internal self. He just woke up, he's like, I like building Walmart. I'm going to keep building Walmart. I'm going to make more Walmarts, and just kept doing it over and over again.
And you probably know, if you go back, before 100 years ago, it never would have occurred to anybody to be introspective. Like, it's the whole idea of, just all of the modern conceptions around introspection and therapy and all the things that kind of result from that are, kind of manufactured in the 1910s, 1920s.
Say more about that.
Great men of history didn't sit around doing this stuff at any prior point, right? It's all a new construct. So first Western civilization had to kind of invent the concept of the individual, right? Which was like a new concept, several hundred years ago. And then, for a long time, it was, all right, the individual runs, right, and like does all these things and builds things and builds empires and builds companies and builds technology, does all these things, and then kind of this kind of guilt-based whammy kind of showed up from Europe, a lot of it from Vienna in the 1910s, 1920s, Freud and all that entire movement, and kind of turned all that inward and basically said, okay, now we need to basically second guess the individual. We need to criticize the individual. The individual needs to self-criticize. Right. The individual needs to feel guilt, needs to look backwards, needs to, dwell on the past. It never resonated with me.
Do you find a lot of the greatest founders that you've spent time with and backed and partnered with or have low introspection?
Yeah, generally. Although, in fairness, the introspection is probably linked to the personality trait of neuroticism, right? So, a lot of the best founders are, I think at like 0% neuroticism. Like they just don't get emotionally fazed by things that happen, which is a superpower when you're an entrepreneur. But having said that, some of the great entrepreneurs are in fact very neurotic. Like that's also the case. It's not a maybe it's a nice to have to be low neuroticism, but not necessary. And so there are some that kind of get wrapped around the axle.
So are you spending in NVIDIA $1 billion, $2 billion on tokens for your engineering team now?
We're trying to. Let me give you the thought experiment. Let's say you have a software engineer or AI researcher and you pay them $500,000 a year. We do that all the time. Yeah. Okay, this is happening all of the time. That $500,000 engineer at the end of the year, I'm going to ask them how much did you spend in tokens? And that person said $5,000. I will go ape something else.
Yes.
Right.
If that $500,000 engineer did not consume at least $250,000 worth of tokens, I am going to be deeply alarmed.
The same tools that connect us also isolate us. the same platforms that gave everyone a voice like you're using now also degraded the public square. They rewarded outrage. They amplified our worst instincts. They coarsened the way we speak to each other. And that way, and in the way that we treat each other, is in the essence of a society. In the years that after I graduated, no one sat down and resolved to build a technology that would polarize democracies and unsettle a generation of young people. That was not our plan, but it happened. I tell you all of this because last December, Time magazine selected its Person of the Year for 2025. And this time, it was the architects of artificial intelligence. Interesting. So today we stand on this edge of another technological transformation, one that will be larger, faster, and more consequential than what came before. It will touch every profession, every classroom, every hospital, every laboratory, every person, and every relationship you have. I know what many of you are feeling about that. I can hear you. There is a fear. There is a fear in your generation that the future has already been written, that the machines are coming, that the jobs are evaporating, that the climate is breaking, that politics is fractured, and that you are inheriting a mess that you did not create. And I understand that fear. The question is not whether AI will shape the world, it will. The question is whether you will help shape artificial intelligence. We do not know the precise contours of what this transformation will look like. But what we do know is it will require each of us to adapt in ways that we cannot yet anticipate. If science is not your passion, if you don't care about science, that's okay, because AI is going to touch everything else as well. Whatever path you choose, AI will become part of how work is done. If you have an idea for a company, you can build a website overnight. If you want to learn something entirely new and you want to have a personal tutor in any language for the cost of an internet connection, you can have it. If you have a problem in the world you want to solve, you can now assemble a team of AI agents to help you with the parts that you could never accomplish on your own.
If you want to impact the way 1 billion people experience music, you have to build something for 1 billion people. And so that is first and foremost giving everybody the joys of creating music. And this is a huge departure from how it is now. It's not really enjoyable to make music now. People enjoy.
Why did you say that?
It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of practice. You need to get really good at an instrument or really good at a piece of production software. I think the majority of people don't enjoy the majority of the time they spend making music.
Do you not think that's like running? It is hard to run. It is painful to run. You don't particularly enjoy it, but you love running.
There is an inherent tension between social stuff and personalization, right? And I don't want to make the hyper niche genre
How
for
do
only
you think
you.
about that? Because, as I said, I created, a song for, my girlfriend before. Is that good? Like, do you want? It's
That's fantastic.
hyper-personalized.
No, that's at least that's 2. You made it for somebody.
Yeah.
Like that is not something that is so much more social than what exists now, where you listen to music from artists and you love the music and you see a piece of yourself in the artist, but you don't actually interact with them. You making a song for your girlfriend is amazing. And you might say, well, I really wish you had spent 10,000 hours playing guitar and then you could have done that without the help of Suno. But short of that, like, is it bad that you did that? No, I think it's actually great that you did that.
But the world of AI is clearly filled with people who, at the very least, seem to have a more utopian, transformative, whatever word you want to call it, view of the technology than you're expressing here, right? And you were mentioned earlier the idea that the modern world used to promise radical life extension and doesn't anymore. it seems very clear to me that a number of people deeply involved in artificial intelligence see it as a kind of mechanism for transhumanism, for transcendence of our mortal flesh, and either some kind of creation of a successor species or some kind of merger of mind and machine. And do you think that's just all kind of irrelevant fantasy? Or do you think it's just hype? Do you think people are trying to raise money by pretending that we're going to build a machine god, right? Is it hype? Is it delusion? Is it something you worry about? I think you would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes?
I don't know. I would
this is a long hesitation. This is a long hesitation.
There's so many questions implicit
Should
in this.
the human race survive?
Yes.
Okay.
But
tell me what the world's going to be like in, let's say, 10 years if you succeed.
10 years, so we're talking 2036.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll both be around.
Hopefully,
I
yes.
think we can.
Probably. Most likely we will be. It's hard to imagine the future where there's not an overwhelming amount of artificial intelligence. Meaning, like in 10 years, I would expect artificial intelligence to be far greater than the sum of human intelligence. Like far greater. In fact, I think AI may exceed the sum of human intelligence in around 5 years.
In 5 years?
Roughly 5 years is my guess. So there really won't be anything that AI can't do better than humans, apart from being human, perhaps.
One of the other things that worries people about the direction we're heading in, and I'm going to caricature it, but people think that the direction of the world is being shaped by a very small number of incredibly powerful people, and you are right at the top of that list.
So what else is? But is this different from the past?
I agree with you. I think it was like that.
When wasn't that the case?
It was ever thus, but
it was ever thus. Exactly.
It is as you've described very vividly. It's an incredibly rapid change. And so let's start with control of your company, which you definitely have now. After the IPO, you have 80% odd of voting shares, and as I understand it, you can only be removed by a vote of shares which you yourself control. So tell me if I'm wrong, but I think you can go
there's a few
crazy.
companies in that bucket. By the way, the AI companies, like Google's in that bucket. Alphabet is controlled by Larry and Sergey.
But I think yours is more extreme. The inability
it's the same level of they have voting control of that company.
You also have, through Starlink, incredible geopolitical power. I mean, I'm one of your customers.
Thank you.
Excellent product.
Great.
But without them, the Ukrainians would have been in serious, serious trouble. These are geopolitical decisions of consequence. How do you feel about having that power? You can determine the outcome of wars. How does that feel? And is it right that you should have that power?
Well, I'm not sure we're determining the ultimate outcome of the war in Ukraine. I think I do hope that there's some sort of peace agreement reached soon, because for 2 or 3 years now, the border has barely moved, and every day there are lots of people dying at the front line, and I think there's a lot of wishful thinking here of people saying, well, Russia should completely withdraw, etc. But this is not realistic. I really think there needs to be some, a piece with that is that we have to be pragmatic about this. What I think would be terrible is if there's another 3 years of people dying senselessly at the front lines, and you have to say, like, well, how do you explain to the children of the men that are dying at the front lines? Russia, on the Russian side too, by the way, they've been conscripted and sent there. I am quite offended by sort of fancy diplomats who have, 7-course dinners in luxurious places while people are dying at the front lines, and who pontificate about how Russia should withdraw, but they're not going. Russia's not going to withdraw. So There really needs to be an accepted peace along those lines.
And do you think it's your responsibility to play a role in tipping the scales towards what you see as the right way to peace?
I've been advocating peace for a long time. I posted a few years ago that there really needs to be some concession here to Russia. This is not me being pro-Russia. I'm just being pragmatic. Or people will die for years with nothing achieved, and that is exactly what happened.
I don't know. I mean, the Ukrainians
are
doing pretty well right now at, with their incredible drone capacity hitting inside Russia, and the kind of general consensus is that the balance of the war is shifting. But my point is not so much
Ukraine
about what
is not going to retake those territories. It is not going to happen.
The question isn't how are you improving the process with the technology. It's a question of how do you interlink and couple those two flywheels together so that you're delivering technology at the right phase in their process, and they're giving you the operational feedback in the right phase of your process so that you can have mutual, synergistic improvements in how we approach things. It's not just the technology, it's also the process. The process is clear. That's what we need to be focusing on. And what we found when we looked at the AI into different types of workflows is that the system was wrong. This is Maven Smart System, Palantir's software as a service product that we are deploying across the entire department. As you can see, it's not just one data feed, it's multiple. And instead of having 8 or 9 systems for those decision makers to look at every single day in order for them to make decisions, you then fuse it into a single visualization tool. The single visualization tool allows you to select, deselect different types of data, look at different approaches to data, but more importantly, action from the same system that you're trying to develop your workflows around. Once you have a detection that you want to actually move into a targeting workflow, for example, this is what we do. Left click, right click, left click, magically, it becomes a detection. That detection then gets moved into a workflow. This is standard digitized workflow, but I want to walk you through it quickly. You have different types of targets that are identified on the left there. Every single column produces a different type of decision-making process. Once you have that decision and you're trying to actually action that process, we now move into COA generation, course of action generation, where we are automatically, via a number of factors, trying to identify what the best asset to prosecute a target looks like. Once we've got the different approaches and we select one, we then can move directly into how do we action that target. So we've gone from identifying the target to now coming up with a course of action to now actioning that target, all from one system. This is revolutionary. We were having this done in about 8 or 9 systems where humans were literally moving detections left and right in order to get to our desired end state, in this case, actually closing a kill chain.